What is going on, everybody, and welcome to our first ever podcast episode. This is just going to be a short little introduction into Steve's life, my life, and the life of Aquatica. Just give you guys a little bit of an introduction of who we are. It'll give you some insight as to what we do that you might not get with the YouTube videos because they're so short and kind of clipped up and compact. So we wanted to come on here. Maybe the main purpose of doing a podcast is just to be sure to let you guys a little bit more into our lives and give you guys a little bit more insight on what goes down if you're interested. Obviously, not everybody is going to want to know all about the Aquatica business, but if you do, this is a great place to be. So I guess we should just get right into it.
Well, this is something we've been talking about for a long time. Really excited to finally do this. We've like had to figure a lot of stuff out with like mics and headphones and whatever. You guys don't need to hear about all that. But Brody and I have been together since the beginning, and this is we're going to get into that ideology of the beginning, because Aquatica has been around for a long time. But I'm pumped to share this with you guys. It's we never really knew if we were going to do a video or something to like say how is Steve involved in Aquatica, how is Brody involved in Aquatica. Our like chance meeting is kind of fun to talk about, and where Brody and I have worked together and like taken this store is something to be proud of. And so we want to share that with you guys, the ones who follow us on YouTube and get hyped about us. We're hyped to share, that inside story that gets to reach the customers that aren't local to us. So I will take the lead, and then we can get to your part in the story and we can just run it and send it. So Aquatica Corals has been around since 2012. There was a previous owner named Dave who built this store. I met him by chance, and we became friends, and about 2 years ago, Dave was going through some transitional periods in his life. I was going through some transitional periods in my life where I had like a garage type of hobbyist grow out at home, and I would sell Dave coral sometimes. I was a hang around at the store. We became friends, stuff like that. And then that built a friendship and a trust level that when Dave started to go through this transitional period, he called on me to back him up. I was running a full-time job at that time. I'm actually a commercial truck driver. I was driving milk and working for the local dairy here. And on my weekends, I would come and actually run the store by myself so Dave could go deal with his family life. And that happened for a couple months until Dave finally needed to move on from the store. And based on what I was doing at home with my coral sales and stuff, I had already started talking with my family about the idea of maybe renting a warehouse, throwing some tanks together, and taking a chance, getting myself out of the truck. The truck had a correlation with my health, and my health had a correlation with this decision to let's go, life is now, try entrepreneurship. And the office that I'm sitting in right now, there's a chair right there, and I was sitting in that chair hanging out with Dave, having a real like heart-to-heart conversation about which direction his life was going when he told me, hey, I'm going to sell the store. And I opened my mouth and said, well, this sounds like a good idea. Maybe I might be interested in it. Fast forward 2 years, here I am. We bought the store. Dave actually was gone within a month of saying those words. And I was handed the keys to the kingdom and kind of bumbled through some of it, just being a hobbyist guy with a dream. And like all of a sudden now I'm a business owner and trying to figure out how to like, I can take care of the tanks that are at my house, but now I have everything, and Dave had a way of doing things and I have a way of doing things. And so there was definitely some hardship. Right after I acquired the store, and it's not even like fully in my name yet. Dave's just gone, and I'm just like, I guess I'm doing this. Brody shows up. So you're up, Brody. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm trying to like put it together. I don't really remember completely how it went down, but I'll just start a little bit with me. So I've been in the hobby. I'm 18 years old. I got my first saltwater tank when I was 13 or 14. So I've been in the hobby for a little while. It's a hobby. It's just like Steve was. Always loved fish. And then around my junior year of high school, I was looking for a job, and I knew that I wanted to do something with marine biology in the future, and I had interest in reef tanks. So I thought I'd reach out to a couple different fish stores and kind of see who was hiring, stuff like that. Reached out to a couple over social media. Aquatica was one of those. Steve was the first one to respond, and he said, come by the store tomorrow and we'll chat. So I went to the store, and it's actually funny because I had been to Aquatica before because it's pretty local to my house, about 10 minutes away. And I always knew Dave. Dave was the familiar person, and I hadn't been there in a while. So I walk in and I see Steve, and it's like, who are you? I didn't know who he was because it wasn't publicized that it was transferred. But anyways, we got to talking, and Steve wasn't exactly in the place to pay me at that point. Like, it wasn't like he was hiring a new employee, but I was so interested, and we had such a good like connection at first, and our mutual interests were definitely there. Like, Steve saw a future for the store, and it was a good opportunity to start something and be a part of something awesome. So I took a chance, and I interned for a little bit, and then a couple weeks, it wasn't months, a couple weeks went by, and then I finally got on payroll, which is awesome, and that just elevated it further. But I've been working at Aquatica for like a year and a half now, and it's been great. Yeah. Steve, turn your music
What
down
you
a little
guys,
bit.
what you guys don't. I got the music. Give me a second. Sorry, guys. This is
I'll cut
real
it out. I'll cut
real
it out.
life
You're good.
in here. Nah, it's all right. What you guys don't get to see when you're not here is the vibe between Brody and I. Like, we literally feed off of each other. I have visions and direction, and Brody has visions and direction, and we get to just like collaborate and come up with these ideas. And then, I mean, it's so cool when these things work out. Like YouTube, like Aquatica did not have YouTube. So if you look at our YouTube, Dave had started it in 2012 and never did anything with it. Not a single video posted. And then Brody's like, let's get on top of this. And I'm like, yeah, I want to do this, but I don't know what I'm doing. And Brody's like, I don't know what I'm doing either. We're on the ride together. And I think Brody and I have been active on YouTube 6 months. About that, right, buddy? And at least actually active on it. And then all of a sudden, like, we're actually doing something with YouTube. It's like a thing, and I mean, it's crazy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess the kind of, as we get into the store part of things, I think we both kind of saw more of the store than what was there, and we knew that there's lots of different ways you can go about that, but we're pretty limited. We were, and we still kind of are when it comes to like the financial resources enough to like super expand. Like, we can't obviously build a giant warehouse and have 300-gallon tanks. So where we thought we could kind of spread this message was through social media, because it's very accessible and we have a lot to show for it. So I think we had that conversation early on, and it was like, what do we want this to really be? And it's not like we do YouTube to get rich and famous, because we know that not only is that not tangible, but also the money is not the reason we do YouTube. It's truly because we just wanted to elevate this message of like who Aquatica is, and we had so much cool stuff that we both wanted to do collectively that you can see in the store right now. Like, that Seahorse tank was a collaborative effort between me and Steve, and it's really rad now. And I think just certain things like that really elevated us, and we're both interested in YouTube. Like, we both like watching other people make YouTube. And actually, I think the coolest part about it is we actually watch very different styles of YouTube. So we were able to kind of, the way we come together and create this like different content was what made me the most excited. I just felt like we had something, we had a little bit of this unique experience that we could share with other people, and people seem to enjoy it, so it's been working out good. But you're right, I think just the fact that we build off each other better than most, and I think that's helped a lot. Obviously, we have other team members around Aquatica. It's not just me and Steve.
Absolutely.
Ethan, Ash, and Gabe, and everybody plays a part. And David. David's a big part too. everyone plays a part, and it's great. And those are the people you don't see very often, but it's more of like a family feel, I'd say. When I was thinking of like opening up this podcast, like a couple lines I was thinking of is like introducing us as a fish store in San Diego, which is subjectively what we are, but I think that's the smallest part of what we are, because not only just within our workspace, within all of our employees, like we're just a family, and with our customers, we're just a family, and with all these people, we're just a family. It truly isn't a business. That's not really how we treat it. It's more of just like a community, and that's what I like the most about it.
I definitely want to expand on that. You've touched on something that's so like there. David, is just a friend of ours that helps out a hobbyist and helps bring another aspect of knowledge to the store. And then we've got Ethan, who is new to the hobby and is such an asset to this company right now, being a shop guy. And then Brody is diversified with like the marine biology and the science and all of that. And then my son, Gabriel, which he brought up, is my right-hand man out on service. Like, we're out there crushing it all morning trying to like keep these tanks clean and beautiful. And one of the things Aquatica didn't have in the past was a team. I forgot to mention Ashton. Ashton is a remote background bookkeeper, tax guy, so many hats that like
The brains of the operation.
Oh my God, he keeps Ashton, when you watch this, you keep the lights on, because Brody and I will buy $10,000 fish orders, and then be broke.
No, see, this is funny. I don't want to cut you off, but I have to explain this. So when me and Steve want to order stuff, this happened a lot. Obviously, I'm remote now in college, so it's not the same anymore. But over the summer, we'd be like, dude, I really want this and this, and we're both like, yeah, let's get it. And we went to sit down at the computer, and we like fill up a cart of like $5,000, and then we have to be like, dude, who's gonna tell Ashton? And then it's like a go ask mom type thing.
Yeah.
And he calls us and he tells us no, and we're all depressed.
And you touched on another point. So, like, you and I, God, terrible business owner I am, because I'm like, yeah, let's order some of those because I want that.
Yeah. No, we keep.
And then customers are like, oh, hey, that fish is super cool. Can I get that? No, that's mine.
No, you'd be surprised. A lot of the fish we actually have in the tanks at the store are from fish orders that just came in, and they looked a little bit too good to sell, so we took them. Which also
that's part of unboxing videos. Like, Brody is honestly not joking when he goes, yeah, this one we're keeping, that's going over there. Like, we can run around the store and be like, yep, that's that Target goby we kept. Yep, that's that guy that we kept. And it's still here.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say that it also branches off onto another point about how terrible salesmen we are when, like, we'll have customers come in, and oftentimes in the saltwater aquarium hobby, from what I've noticed, honestly, is that you get a lot of people that are actually freshwater keepers that come in, and they're like, oh, I want Nemo. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's some clown fish. And kind of you ask them the normal questions, like, you got a tank? Like, what do you got? Whatever. They're like, I got a fish bowl. and you're like, that's not quite the right environment. It's also
He's
not
not kidding. It happens all the time. The worst one is the Fluval Evo 13 from Petco.
Hey, I'm not going to lie. You can't hate on that tank because I love that tank.
Yeah, but the story you're telling is, I just walked in from Petco. I bought some pretty gravel and some plastic plants.
That's true.
And an Evo 13.
Not the tank itself. But
yeah. Not hating on Fluval. It's just that's the package they buy.
But
and then
all that to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
All that to say is they'll come in and you might think, well, that's an easy sale, right? Like, they don't know what they're doing, so you just make a couple quick bucks. But we'll straight up be like, no, please go, or like, we don't have any freshwater. You can look around, or we have tanks available, or just even people with saltwater tanks. They'll come in and they're like, you're like, what tank? Like, let me figure out how to say this. They'll come in and they'll see a powder blue tang, very gorgeous fish in the fish system. They're like, oh, I really want that fish. And you ask them, you're like, oh, you have saltwater tank? Yeah. They know a lot and they seem knowledgeable, and then they're like, yeah, I got a Fluval 13.5. and then you're like, well, unfortunately, or any type of Max Nano or any type of small tank, and you're like, well, unfortunately, that fish isn't going to survive. And again, you might think easy sale, they want it really bad, but we just won't sell fish that
Not
we
here.
don't know are going to do well.
No,
So,
but Brody's not kidding. You need to like and subscribe, so maybe we can get some YouTube money because I shut people down all the time. I really am.
not good
Like,
salesman.
no, I'm not. You missed it yesterday. I'm half tempted to bring Ethan over here to tell the story. There's a guy over here at the Seahorse tank, and he's like asking about the seahorses, and Ethan's communicating with him, and Ethan gets to the point where he finds out that he's doing a 1 gallon like beta tank, and that's not a big deal. You're cool. You can do your freshwater, whatever. But no experience and is ready to take home seahorses today. And we're like, hey man, this is like a delicate creature. Like, let's maybe ease into that. And he pivots and he wants an octopus. And Ethan breaks him down that we are absolutely against that. We don't facilitate that. That is not our jam. And then Ethan offers him maybe, why don't we start out with a BioCube or something like that, and just kind of check this out. And it went off of the tracks, and that's where Brody and I are like fish guys. Brody is like science fish, Latin names, stuff like that. I am that's my fish, and if you buy it and take it home, you kill it, you better like not come back. No, it's not like that, but I'm emotionally invested in this stuff, and Brody's emotionally invested, and my crew, my team, my family here is very emotionally invested to spite ourselves when it comes to a business, because if I think you're going to leave, and my entire team is trained this way, that if you're going to leave and kill that, I'm not selling it. That's my reputation. That's Aquatica's reputation. That's a bad experience for you. And I'll save, I'll lose the $30 that I might have made on that, and it'll go to a good home. So again, like, subscribe, get us some YouTube money, because we're not doing good.
Which I do want to preface, because I feel like it kind of sounds like we're hating on newbies, which we're not, because that whole situation right there is built upon another thing that we love to do, is educate, and we love to get people in the hobby. Number one thing, my favorite thing on earth is when people are setting up in the tank. It's the best. So when someone comes
Absolutely.
in and they have a freshwater tank and they're like, dude, I just really want to get in saltwater, dude, we'll sit there. For another reason we're terrible salesmen is we will sit there past the time we're supposed to be there and literally just talk to them. And
oh my gosh, yeah, like Brody will sit with you for hours. I will sit with you for hours. Ethan will sit with you for hours and be like, this is every single step of the way. These are your chemical parameters. This is your specific gravity. This is what you do. This is how you water change. Basically, if you come in here and you're a newbie, one of us will crash course you right then and there exactly how to be successful in this hobby, and then I don't know, 4 hours have gone by.
yeah, which I like, and sometimes it ends with I'm not interested anymore, but that person knows X amount more about saltwater tanks. It's just a cool thing in general. Like you don't necessarily have to have a tank to be a part of the hobby. I think that's another big thing. Like, you can be interested in saltwater aquariums and be knowledgeable about them and appreciate them in the way they are, and you don't have to own one. I think that's another cool part about a lot of things we do. Sometimes we have people that come into the store that literally just want to look around like it's an aquarium. And I mean, when I was there, I treated those tanks like they were exhibits. I mean, when we had a snowflake kill, I wrote up this whole scientific, like, a little poster about it that sat right in front of the tank.
Yeah.
And that seahorse tank is my pride and joy when it comes to the point where it's like, it is a pristine environment, and that's what we treat it as. So we call it our showroom because it truly is a place where you can come and not buy something and enjoy your time there because it's cool and you can appreciate it as it is.
I have some huge pride in the fact that twice now 2 different people have said that we look better than Birch Aquarium, and I mean, I'm just a tiny little store that's kind of huge, dude. Maybe they're biased, maybe they just love us or whatever, but we have a lot of diversity here, and I don't charge admission. So there you go.
If only we were a little bit bigger, maybe we could hold ourselves up to that. No, yeah, but I've always, when I dream about anywhere YouTube could ever go or making any amount of money off YouTube, I never think in the way that I'm going to be rich and then buy it like a freaking Lamborghini. I think of it in the way that I would love for Aquatica to just be a showroom and we just make videos. I don't even need to sell anything. Like if we made enough money off YouTube, like just create like a freaking aquarium almost. And just
Oh my
make
gosh!
videos.
I mean, like my version of a Lamborghini is what a 500-gallon, reef tank that I can get in, or maybe the 1,000-gallon Predator tank that is only for blue. Which, when you
What about Polo Reef?
put, yeah, that's a little bit too much, but yeah, I
That's
mean,
like a
I
yacht.
could
That's
be
like-
that guy.
That's like 40 yachts.
Yeah, 40 yachts.
We're never getting
Actually,
there, it's okay.
I'm thinking when like you put this video together, throw Blue in there. I mean, that is our store mascot from forever. You know,
It's like a dog. If you guys don't know, Blue is a porcupine pufferfish that lives in our tide pool, Predator tide pool tank, right when you walk into the store. And honestly, is the most personable. I mean, if you know pufferfish, you know that they're pretty personable to begin with. But I think Blue is definitely above else on the fact that just a very personable fish.
well, he's actually got a legitimate personality. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was saying about like throwing a clip in or something. Like, he will squirt water out of the tank at you because he wants attention and he wants food. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And he'll like chase you around the tank, and if you don't look at him, you're getting wet.
Yeah, no, he literally will just like spit water. Like I don't know how they do it specifically, but they literally just get water in their mouth and they'll just spit it out of the tank. And he honestly gets some good distance on it. You
Yeah.
might get clipped if you walk past that tank. and it's feeding
Yeah. Yeah, fair warning, right by the front door, you might get wet. Splash zone.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think that's really kind of where it's headed. I mean, we started in one spot, and I'm not going to say that we're anywhere close to where we want to be yet, but we truly are making lots of progress, at least just facilitating an environment where you come into Aquatica and you feel like it's not only set apart from other places, but it's also, you just want to be there. Like, you don't feel looked down upon, and you don't feel like you can't ask questions. And I mean, realistically, I think something that I really was interested in doing, which we did end up implementing, was making our tanks around the store that we have set up for like just show tanks that are our tanks. I wanted to make them each like a little bit different. Like, there's lots of ways to do this hobby, and like our seahorse tank is a soft coral tank, meaning it's very easy to maintain, very easy to keep. And then we have a tank that's just full of anemones, which is another way you can do this hobby. And it's just a beautiful tank. And then obviously we have all the coral in the coral system, so you can see that for what it is too. And
Tide
at one
pool
point-
is basically like a fish only
only.
system. Yeah.
Exactly. So I just wanted people to be in here and be like, you know what? I think I like it more this way than that way. And there's no such thing as one right way to do this hobby. There's lots of easier ways and harder ways and different routes you can take. But truly, you gotta do it the way that you want it. And I think one of the things we do best is showing people that there's so many ways to do it, and you can really achieve any of these, whether or not it's easy, hard, difficult. We got
Yeah.
you on
I
that.
definitely want to expand on that a little bit, because you didn't even cover like species specific for the BioCube, for the mantis shrimp. We have a 3-gallon Pico up on the desk that's a macro tank with a mangrove in it. You don't know about it yet, but there is now a 12-gallon bow front on top of the filing cabinet, and I think we're going to do an angler.
That'd be sick.
So, yeah.
By the
So
way,
you're right. Yeah, go ahead.
By
what?
the way, I just wanted to preface that we put the Pico tank on the front desk, and if he does do an angler, on the front desk or near it, so that when people come up and like, oh, I want that tank, you're like, okay, all right, we'll sit down for a couple hours and talk about how hard these things are to keep. They're purposely placed,
Yeah.
so people don't get any ideas that they
Or
can't take
do
care.
get ideas.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing. I honestly, I'm not a believer in the expert word. I think that it's.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's a thing, and I'll say what I mean by that. I think that there is certain things you need experience with. I don't think by any means that anybody should jump into an acro dominant tank with Achilles tangs and anything crazy like that, but I don't think that things are unachievable by any means. There is, again, any way to do anything, and there's routes to take, and all you gotta do is research. Freaking tons of stuff out there. YouTube, Google forums, all that stuff. Research. If you got people around you, like a local fish store, chat with them, and you can really achieve anything you want. If you want an acro dominant tank with an Achilles tank, by all means do it. Just research the hell out of YouTube and the internet, and progressively take your time, which is a big thing in this hobby. Nothing good happens fast, but get to the point where really just envision what you want out of it, and nothing's impossible. So there's certain things that are questionable, like you said, octopus. I don't agree with that.
But that can be done too. I mean, I'm probably going to regurgitate exactly what Brody's saying, but I subscribe to the same idea here. Expert is a stupid way of like limiting people. If you're going to say expert, maybe you should say instead it's a lot of work and you need to be diligent and on top of it. The Seahorse tank is expert only, right? No, it's not. There are things and ideas that have to be in place ahead of time. He said soft coral only. Brody and I planned this tank for what, 6 months, bro?
Yeah, it took a
right?
long time to get it going, yeah.
Okay. It is built extremely specifically just for the seahorses. The coral that's in there is just the seahorses. The flow that's in there is just the seahorses. The filtration is just the seahorses. Everything about that went into the idea of that species. Then we waited forever for the tank to be ready for that species, and then we did that species.
Which I also
so yes,
say,
expert only, but no, it's pre-planning, it's putting in the work. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on a little bit that there are definitely certain things that deserve the expert only label. One thing that comes to mind is like a cowfish or any boxfish at that. Like, there's certain things where truly as someone who's been in the hobby for long enough and understands marine organisms as much as I do, I still will never feel comfortable owning a cowfish.
Agreed.
And I know Steve has owned one in the past, and he kept it alive, but randomly one day it decided to die. And all I want to say that for is
vanished.
There are some things in this hobby that truly, maybe you want to argue, I'll argue that they shouldn't be kept in captivity because they're so hard to keep, and there's some things that are just hard to keep. And when you're research why it's expert only. There's lots of fish that are expert only that I think deserve the label just because they have such specific diets in the wild that can't be replicated in captivity, let alone they're collected from the wild. So they're not captive bred where they might be able to nourish onto these new and I also want to say there's some people out there that might have success with them, but it's random. So there's some fish that deserve the expert only label, but when it comes to tank styles or expert tanks, acros, all these things, they're very difficult to keep. Seahorses that are captive bred, very difficult to keep. Don't get wild caught seahorses, but they're tangible. And like Steve said, it takes years to get where we are with that seahorse tank, and it's going to take years if you do it right with other things.
And there was a little bit of luck
awesome.
in there too. So seahorses active on the reef, feeding on live food, right? Ours are eating frozen, and that took work. That took live brine and integration of frozen food to convince them to eat the said frozen food. However, what you also don't know, expert only or whatever, diligence, hard work, I literally shut that tank down 4 times a day, killed the entire flow, feed it so bad, so aggressively heavy that I'm going through filter socks daily, and then turn the tank back on. And they're alive, and we're doing it, but I'm here all day, every day, and I get to do that, and I get to enjoy these creatures.
Yeah, well, he's also, he's not saying that he's feeding it with, he's not feeding it overly heavily to where he's defeating the whole purpose of the keeping the tank clean, because if you don't know about seahorses, they don't have any stomach, so when they take in food, they instantly release it, which you can have such bad nitrate problems, and oh my gosh, it's a disaster. So that tank also, another part of what went into that tank is we put a sump on it when it didn't have a sump, which was a crazy addition. We actually like went as long as
flooded it a couple times.
flooded the store a couple times just putting a sump on it because we knew that we wouldn't be able to sustainably and healthily keep these seahorses alive if it was an all-in-one tank, just because of the amount of nutrients that we're going to be pouring into that tank. So
yeah, there's UV sterilizer in there, upgraded filter socks. There's so much going on in that tank. Plus, some of the coral Brody and I picked out specifically to kind of filter the water a little bit. We had this whole idea behind biome and et cetera, et cetera. We're kind of like rambling on about this, but it is what it is.
Also, another thing he touched on with the UV sterilizer is, if you have been following along with what we've been talking about, we weren't able to run that UV sterilizer in the beginning when we're feeding live food because it would wipe them out. So we really had to, it was a shot in the dark to be able to feed them live copepods and live brine while not running the UV sterilizer. And then they finally got on frozen food. They're like, now we can run with it. Now we can keep this tank clean, and now we're able to spot feed them, and they're doing absolutely well. It's been much more than 4 or 5 months now, and they're absolutely killing it. Super active for their species. So yeah, it's been great. That's an awesome tank, and it's a win for Aquatica. It's a good testimony to us being able to implement what we talked about.
So I was thinking something that we were talking about before kind of was instigated while you were speaking, but do you want to talk about Australian stripies?
Oh, God. So that's going to wrap up our introduction then, and we'll end this episode with a little bit of a controversy between me and Steve. We get along quite well, but there's certain things that we have our differences on, and one of those things is the Australian stripey, which I will pop up a picture of right now. And if you guys don't know this fish, it is relatively uncommon when it comes to like the major fish scene. It's not like the most rare.
Recently became popular.
It did, and it is. I'll let Steve talk about the benefits in his perspective.
So what we're going to do right now is we're going to tease you, because Brody and I are going to have a real debate. I am pro stripey. He's not exactly convinced. We're going to cut this video off, and that's going to be episode 2.
What?
Yeah. Come on, I got to get him to come back, right?
No, they'll come back. Let's just lay the surface level stuff, and then we'll get into the logistics. The next video we'll talk all about fish, but right now
make sure to comment. Thank you, Brody, for continuing the video, because I want to get you over there.
We'll keep it suspenseful, but I want you to just explain a little
bit
what
pro stripey. Okay, Australian stripey comes from Australia. I love this fish. I absolutely love this fish. Now, unfortunately, recently some people figured out, hey, guess what Australian stripies eat? Aptasia. Great Aptasia eater, right? Well, there's some water cooler talk that they also love to eat LPS.
Yeah, this is where I explain. So, I have 2 parts of my points that I will get into much more depth when we talk next time. But the surface level stuff, Steve likes them because they eat Aptasia. What I've read on different scientific papers that I've read is that they eat Aptasia in a certain period of their life. So it's a certain stage in their growth where they're Aptasia eaters. But then they grow into LPS eaters. And in my opinion, I've never owned one of these fish, but I have seen them eat Aptasia, but I'm also convinced that their natural orientation to go through these stages and eat specific things will then eventually eat all your LPS in your tank. That's my take on it.
Back to Steve.
I'm going to say a second thing.
Okay.
And you can finish this off. My second part to this is they're relatively hard to obtain when it comes to ordering them. And when they come in about the size of like a quarter. And they look like a damsel almost in the way that like you look at them and you're like, oh, that fish is going to stay that. But they get an insane size for what they look like. Yeah, and they're constantly active. and they need to eat a lot. So if they're Aiptasia eaters fully, they eat all your Aiptasia, they're going to go for something. They need to grow. That's my take on it. You finish it off.
I'm gonna throw down back to this whole controversial expert only. These fish come with caveats, in my opinion. I currently have 4 of them, 1 in each coral system right now. They are all monsters. They all came from dimes, and now they're like this. Those coral systems have LPS in them, and my stripies do not eat LPS. I have never once in the entire time that I've owned stripies, I owned them way back in the day, way before they became popular, and I've never once seen one eat LPS. Now, one of the ones that I have in here was a customer relinquishment, and he is huge. I mean, he is the most mature one that I have. And he was brought to me because he was caught eating Dunkins. And I believe, Brody already kind of dabbled on it, they need to be fed. These guys are, I'm going to say they look like tweakers. They're always going. They're zooming around the tank. They see you walk by. They're at the glass. Yo, bro, feed me right now. Feed me, feed me, feed me. Hyper fish. And they don't just get fish food. They get lots of krill all day long. They have a very high metabolism. I keep them active. I keep them distracted. I feed them. My argument is my stripies don't eat coral because I am feeding them the way that they need to be fed.
Okay.
Maybe wrong, maybe right. Never seen them eat coral, so until otherwise, that I'm there, dude. Stripies are the best.
I'll get the receipts that I need for next podcast. But with that being said, guys, this is going to do it for episode 1. If you actually made it this far, shoot me a DM on Instagram, and I'll get you a little something if you made it all the way to this video. You're a very strong trooper. I have guaranteed that this. Hi, Mom, because I know my mom will be here. Hi, David. I know David will be here.
Yeah. David, Chris, probably Amy, my daughter,
Yeah. But
me,
anyways,
probably 7 times.
me as well to run up those views. All right, well, it was awesome doing this, Steve. I think that we will try to do this weekly, and next week we will be doing all about fish. We'll talk about stripies. We'll talk about a couple of our favorite fish, and maybe some that you guys don't know about that are kind of underlining, a little bit underrated. But yeah, that's gonna do it.
Maybe talk about the store a little bit. We got a lot going on. We're doing some changes around here. Store's open right now. I'm waving at customers. We're almost ready to. I think this weekend I'm firing up the show tank. I'm going to try to. I'm almost done. So that'll be some cool stuff that Brody and I will talk about in the future. And you guys are welcome to hit us in the comments with questions. It'll either be me or Brody getting back to you. If there's something around the store, or maybe there's something you'd like us to talk about and get our opinion about, we'd love to do that for you. Brody said it in the beginning of the video, and we truly mean it. All of our combined experience here, we want to just continue to share the knowledge, make this more inviting for more people, but also make the experience a good experience, because we've all gone through serious heartache, which also has a price tag on the end of it in this hobby, and maybe you can learn from us and avoid some of those things.
Sounds good. All right, guys, we will see you next week.
Later.